Welcome, everybody, to a new episode of the podcast. Today's episode, Pokemon Day Predictions. Welcome to The Deep End, our captivating discussion series where we dive into the depths of the current Pokemon news and theories. As every February comes around, we all prepare for Pokemon Day, and in similar fashion to other PokeTubers, we come up with some of our own theories and ideas of what we're going to see for this year's Pokemon Day. So with that being said, let's dive into it. For starters, some things that we should discuss is at the time of recording, we have yet to hear anything from Nintendo as far as official news goes. And part of my prediction is actually based on the rumor mill of the coming Switch 2. Now, at this point in time, nothing concrete has actually been revealed as far as an official drop date or even an official reveal of the system. Although many news outlets have been reporting for the last several months that we are supposed to be getting a Switch 2 by the end of this year, 2024. However, within the last 24 hours, news outlets such as The Verge and Screen Rant have reported that the Switch 2 has now been pushed back to Q1 of 2025. And so, for me, this kind of may change my prediction, but originally I was going to turn around and say that if we were going to get a news announcement of the Switch 2 this year, then my prediction was, part of it was going to be a reveal or at least a tease of Generation 10 for a 2025 holiday release. Because, as we all know, Pokemon games move Nintendo systems. Anytime they're announced, those systems just fly off the shelves in preparation for a new generation of trainers to grab a hold of their first starter Pokemon and get into a franchise that has been around for almost 30 years. And so the prediction I had was that with the announcement of a Switch 2 would come the announcement of Generation 10, which would then fuel pre-orders and sales of the system and allow for Nintendo to not only capitalize on that Generation 10 announcement, but also plays perfectly in time with the 30th anniversary of Pokemon, which would be February of 2026. That was kind of where I was thinking as far as what we would be getting this year for Pokemon Day. Of course, there's also, usually we get a announcement for Pokemon Cafe, and as well as Pokemon Masters and Pokemon Unite. Those three things tend to be the biggest thing that we generally tend to see as far as prediction, but I'm just going to throw it out there. I think we're also going to see most likely a stadium type game, Battle Stadium, Battle Coliseum type of game.
Please. That's all I'm waiting for.
So it's very interesting that you mentioned the Switch 2 but the last week alone, so it was rumored that we were going to have a direct this week that's just passed, but that didn't happen. And a very prominent and very accurate person who confirms whether we're getting directs or not is a person on Twitter, it's not Twitter anymore, it's X now, but on Twitter, who goes by, I think it's Pyro or Pyoro, I apologize, I'm not sure how it's pronounced, but they tweeted the other day that there would be a Switch Direct next week. So the Nintendo Direct happening before the Pokemon Presents for Pokemon Day is quite interesting. I mean, that's how it has happened in the past a couple of times. There's Nintendo Direct and then a few days later there's been a Pokemon Presents. But if they announce a Switch 2 there, it could be interesting to see if we would get a new limited edition Scarlet and Violet Switch 2 with enhanced versions of the game, so graphically enhanced performance, some enhancements to run a lot smoother, because if you emulate Scarlet and Violet on something like the Steam Deck or the ROG Ally without even running performance enhancements, it actually runs perfectly. There aren't any issues. There's none of that jittering or any of that. So I do find that quite interesting that could have, or that could be what we might see. But also, Draco, you mentioned Pokemon Unite, and I think there's going to be a big update to Pokemon Unite on Pokemon Day, because there's going to be an event in Unite starting soon where one of the arena bosses is actually going to be a shiny Rayquaza.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I think maybe it might be something as little as they add shiny Pokemon to Unite as like cosmetics, or there maybe could be a chance that if you purchase a Unite license, you might get the shiny variant of it. So that way you might be able to purchase more than one, maybe enhance your current licenses. I don't know. But in terms of what I want to see on Pokemon and what I think could be a possibility, I'm a big advocate for the Ranger games. I love them, and one of the most underutilized features of the Switch that Pokemon hasn't taken advantage of in any way, shape or form is the Switch's touchscreen ability. In the original Ranger games, the way you sort of, and I say captured loosely because you're not really capturing Pokemon in Rangers, you're more befriending them, is you would take your Ranger styler, throw it, and then like a little mini game would happen. So when it was on the DS, it was on the touchscreen, and you'd actually draw circles around the Pokemon. So I think that could be interesting to see on the Switch. Maybe a new Mystery Dungeon, because we do have quite a few Pokemon to add to Mystery Dungeon, and Mystery Dungeon DX did quite well, if I remember correctly, and I'm also a big fan of the Mystery Dungeon games, and I would like to see more spin-offs. Ooh, one big thing I would like to see, and it's been very prevalent in, I believe it's China, is Pokemon Quest, because the Chinese version of Pokemon Quest has gotten a lot of updates, and it's baffled quite a few people as to why they haven't localized it yet, because in my humble opinion, that is one of the best Pokemon mobile games. I didn't really enjoy Cafe Mix, although it's not really my type of game anyway. I'd like to see a new version of Masters GX with maybe a better gacha system, because the way it's set up currently I think is a bit clunky, although I do enjoy playing it. It doesn't pertain to the game specifically, but I want Pokemon to do a similar thing that was done with One Piece, where they do a retelling of Ash's story, obviously less episodes but in live action, because I quite enjoyed seeing Pokemon in live action in the Detective Pikachu movie.
If I recall, Netflix was supposed to be working on a live-action Pokemon show. It hasn't been talked about in a bit, but that was the rumor that was starting off.
Oh, yeah. Actually, didn't they announce something like a live-action thing too? Like, didn't they start getting... I felt like they said they started getting like a cast for it or something, or they said something about it. Like, I thought they did. I could have sworn Netflix was... Yeah, they said they were working on one too. Yeah. I wouldn't mind seeing a Pokemon Ranger game either get ported or like they have a brand new one using the Switch's touchscreen. Honestly, because like I barely use the Switch touchscreen as it is. Like I always have my stuff up to the dock, like on the dock anyways. But like I feel like maybe they could utilize it a little bit more, and then doing so by maybe putting a port or like a brand new version of Pokemon Mystery Ranger. It's called Mystery Ranger. Oh my god, I don't even know what it's called. Pokemon Ranger is like a good way to do it, because I mean, like, I think the only game I played with touchscreen on there was like maybe Pokemon Go for like an hour, and then not Pokemon Go, Pokemon Let's Go Eevee for like an hour, and then I think like Sushi Strikers. That was like the only thing I used the touchscreen for. But yeah, I think I need another Ranger type of game coming in would be great. Mystery Dungeon, I know it has that section of fans, or it has like that big portion of fans, which I think they should probably capitalize on again. So like I feel like if they announce something, it would probably be one of those two. I'm also hoping for like what you're stating earlier, Draco, with like a Coliseum or a new stadium Battle Revolution type of game. That would be amazing. Heck, maybe they'll even announce, oh look guys, we're porting Pokemon Coliseum and Coliseum XD Gale of Darkness, you know? Like, I think that would also be like another thing that they could announce on Pokemon Day. That would definitely like make things like pretty hype, hopefully with some quality of life changes. I don't know, I'm still kind of hoping for them to like reveal like a new, either like a Unova remake kind of thing or some kind of Legends game or something. Like I know we were talking about like how maybe they'll be saving some stuff for like the 30th anniversary and the Switch 2 and stuff, but like I feel like that's, you know, that probably won't stop them, right, from like announcing something that might come out again this year. Heck, I wouldn't even put it past them if they did like the whole, oh, here's your remake this year, guys, and then in January, another Legends game, you know? Just like what they did with BDSP and Legends Arceus. Like, if they pull off something like that, then, oh, man. I'm all down for it. What else? Me personally, though, what I would like to see, like that's like kinda ish brand new, is I would love to see another Pokemon Conquest type of game, because I really enjoyed that series. Or they can go, since they've already done stuff like Pokken, I feel like, you know what? Maybe they can do like a Warriors style game, like a Pokemon Warriors, Dynasty Warriors kind of thing. I feel like that would be kind of cool if they revealed something like that on Pokemon Day. I mean, I don't know what they do with it, honestly, but like story-wise, but I wouldn't mind playing it either. Just playing that one Pokemon and just taking out mobs of Pokemon. I think that just seems kind of cool.
Pokemon Warriors, you get the war of...
What if they use that to like reference the Unova War? You know what I mean? Like between the players. Oh my goodness. Okay, that'd be kind of funny. That'd be kind of funny, but cool at the same time.
I definitely think that this is going to be a very spin-off heavy year, because dropping anything mainline so close to the 30th, but still a little on the far side, I don't think is a good idea. I think they'd hold off on the really, really huge announcement for the 30th, or at least to drop something as close to 30th as possible so that it's in our hands, and then drop a... By the way, here's the DLC that's coming out for the newest mainline game, and that'll announce on the actual physical 30th, which I think would blow people away, especially if it's really good. But I definitely think this is going to be a very spin-off heavy year, because they need to put they have this incessant need to drop stuff throughout the year. And with that being said, Elite Robo, who's been a member of our Discord for a very long time and an amazing artist, has dropped some really amazing artwork for Black, Gold, White, Silver. He's been putting together concept art for a Pokemon Earth and Sky. However, he drops those covers and it gets tweeted, and Ku retweets it, which in itself is amazing. But then comes Subarashi, who's also been a long-time friend of our channel,
and Subarashi
comes in and drops fusions of Ho-Oh and Reshiram with Lugia fused with Zekrom. And I'm just like, dude, I smell collaboration. Because between the two of them, they have cranked out some amazing stuff.
Yeah, that's actually exactly what I wanted to say, which was an interesting point. But not veering too far off, I just have two things. I definitely think it would be a good idea to get a stadium type game, a more battle simulator type game that actually link to the mainline games. So whatever Pokemon you catch in the mainline game is then available to you in the simulator, and obviously items, whatever you get is available to you, just to try and help curb the quote-unquote unfair advantage that genning gives, that a lot of the community thinks gives an unfair advantage, which, I mean, maybe it does because it cuts out the grindiness of breeding and getting the perfect mon. A DLC for Legends Arceus, but not a traditional DLC for this. Just we'll call it the concept for like Black, Gold, and Silver, White. It sort of acts as a DLC to Legends Arceus, but it's its own physical game, and it then pulls off the save data you have on your Switch, and then obviously starts you off in the same location in Hisui, and then you end up you get invited to Unova, and then that whole story unfolds and you go to Johto, because we've seen that now Pokemon is trying to embrace a more multi-region setup for their games, because we had Paldea, whether Kitakami falls as part of Paldea or not is very much a debatable topic. But then in Kitakami we get a callback to Hisui with Blood Moon Ursaluna, and we know that that Blueberry Academy is actually a part of Unova. And even some of the areas in the terrarium are designed after basically Unova's version of the Safari area. The place where you find Haxorus in the Teal Moss is the exact same place that you find the shiny Haxorus in Unova. And if you look at the map, the area actually looks exactly the same.
So let me throw this at you. We've got Legends Arceus, which takes place in the past for Generation 4, right?
Uh.
We've got Scarlet and Violet that has the time is being one of the concepts that they explore, future and past. So think about this for a second. You've got Pokemon Legends Arceus, which past, Silver Violet, which is present. What if we get a Legends Unova announcement, but the whole thing is very futuristic, and it would kind of bookend this generation, giving and hopefully Game Freak doesn't decide to cut the legs out from under this one, because Legends Arceus was such a great game and had such huge potential. I was talking about this over in the Hidden Power Podcast Discord, which a bunch of great guys, supporter of our channel as well. And Pokemon Legends Arceus would have actually had some serious legs to it and would have done so much better had not 1 month later they not announced Scarlet and Violet for that year to be released. I think had Scarlet and Violet been announced for the following year, Legends Arceus would have still sold more copies. But the moment that announcement was made, it just cut the legs right from that particular game. But that game did good numbers, comparatively speaking. It did better than BDSP when you look at it under the guise of it was one game by itself, whereas BDSP combined did only slightly better in sales. Could you just imagine, though, that a new Legends game is in the future? Because the other thing I wanted to point out was that in Black and White, depending on what version of the game, you either got a city made of forests, past, or a booming city that was built with skyscrapers, future.
Yes, the city made of forest or the city made of city.
Yeah. So thinking about how all of that ties so well together, it kind of makes sense that the Gen 5 remake, if we do get one, a lot of people are speculating on this because it's been a thing, but once again, Nintendo and Game Freak have a really interesting habit of throwing curveballs left and right. And when we're used to something and then it gets removed, that's kind of where things get a little wild. And who knows, with the whole Nintendo Online service, we're getting Pokemon games, although they don't connect to home, which is kind of disappointing. We are still getting ports of games coming out that are Pokemon related.
Yeah, so it's interesting that you mentioned the Masters of Left Field strategy about doing things that do shock the community. So, I mean, what if, well, speaking hypothetically here, so what if Robo unknowingly has actually predicted the games and their titles? So those would be the two main spin-offs, and we've never seen enhanced versions for spin-offs. So obviously each one would center around like Zekrom and Lugia and Kyurem and Reshiram and Ho-Oh, but we get an enhanced version because we haven't seen those for a long while, and that centers around Lugia and Suicune.
It's funny because when I made mention of this to somebody in another server, someone by the name of Hayes, shout out to him because he's a great guy, he was like, I talked about this months ago. And it was funny because Elite Robo is not a part of this Discord that I posted his images at. So two people coming up with almost identical concepts was wild to begin with. But you know, the great collective unconscious, I'm a huge believer of this. And even you guys poke fun at me saying I'm, secret member of Game Freak.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
We don't poke fun of you for it. We just know, and you keep refusing.
But what if you're right? What if he's tapping into something where he's predicting these not without realizing that he's actually predicting these? I mean, what if we do get something like Black Gold, White Silver? That would be insane. I think the community as a whole would be absolutely rocked by such a concept and idea.
The Nintendo just haven't got to them, right?
Well, Draco's protecting them, so he's like, nah, leave these guys alone. So Draco is actually the Nintendo Shogun that's controlling the Nintendo ninjas.
You're not gonna get me in trouble.
So, I mean, after seeing those, because I saw them through a Tyranitar Tube video, Ku also did his own little design of the Reshiram Ho-Oh fusion, or must have got it commissioned or whatever, posted his own version of it, which I thought was quite cool. But I was actually thinking of other names for it, because it could be interesting if the names weren't actually the English names. So the actual Greek name for gold and silver are Aurum and Argentium. And it could be a cool concept if they used those, if this is real, if they'd used those and other versions of black and white. So for example, for like blue, you've got blue, azure, all those different things. I'm not sure, or like green, which is like green, chartreuse, etc. But I'm not sure what the other names for black and white could be. But I think it would fit particularly well if they did try and go the Legends route again, where it would be like an ancient telling of the story and what led up to the brothers splitting the original dragon and taking a piece for themselves.
That would be pretty cool.
I'd find it a little interesting.
Yeah, because I think that's still one of the things that the fans want to, right? Like, we want to know what this original dragon was, right? We want to know what it is. Will we be able to obtain it somehow? Will we at least be able to see it in action, fight it? Like that's the thing. Like, I'm definitely on that side of the crowd too. Like, I wanna see this thing. I wanna catch it. I wanna own it, in a sense.
That's also another thing I was thinking about. So with Blueberry Academy being in Universe, obviously they have the original dragon in that, and we know that Serrano somehow brought terrestrializing to Blueberry Academy. What if the original dragon's actual name was the Stellar Dragon?
Stellar Dragon.
And obviously then you could chalk it up to like being translated so many times, assuming that the Pokemon world works similar to ours, where it does have different languages in it, and throughout time it's just been translated, and what was the Stellar Dragon eventually became the original dragon and actually had ties to Terrapagos.
Terrapagos was born from the original dragon.
Yeah, it is very interesting, because I mean, this year is the year of the dragon, but specifically, this year is also an elemental year. So it's actually the year of, I believe it's the wood dragon.
Oh, okay.
So it's not just the year of the dragon.
That's actually interesting, especially when you think about black and white. What were the three main legendaries? They were all dragon. Dragon fire, dragon lightning, dragon ice, right?
Yeah.
So,
and then Unova had a bunch of dragons in it, like an extra 3 dragons, I think.
So what if this is what we're looking at, and we are going to get a remake of Gen 5? Like, this year would actually be the perfect year to drop that.
Definitely.
Again, I just hope it's a better remake. Like, I tend to avoid them these days, only because since I've been working on the living decks, there's nothing really to entice me to purchase them. But for players who've never got to experience Black and White or Black and White 2, it's such a great concept. And the other thing is that, so Black and White 2 was great because Black and White 2 felt like a continuation of the story of the region. You start in a different location. You have characters from the first game, but in completely different places. In the second game, and things were there was a time progression. There was a very physical, visceral, hey, this much time has passed from the first game. Unlike Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, which basically felt like a rehash of Sun and Moon, and to be perfectly honest, I felt more, for the lack of a better term, more ripped off purchasing Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon than I did Black and White 2. Because at least with Black and White 2, they may not have introduced too many new Pokemon, but it was a new story. It was a different perspective. We got to see things, and it felt like a whole new experience, as opposed to Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, which felt like a regurgitation of the same old story.
Yeah, so that's also my reason for being a bit hesitant on Unova remakes, is because we did get 2 different stories, and outside of doing a third version of the story, or what I think would be the best option, which could be something like Legends, whether it's past or future, whatever it is.
Black White 3.
Yeah, so that would then fall under, like, I know the one that comes after the original is a sequel, but what do you call the third one? Like a a trequel. But yeah, so outside of those two options, what really can you do? I mean, you could do what they did with BDSP and do like a faithful remake, but I think that did leave a sour taste in people's mouths because the expectation was in the community was a lot higher than, and people let those expectations sort of run rampant.
Well, I think the problem with BDSP is the majority of the people who purchased it were people who played the originals. If this was your first exposure to Diamond and Pearl, it's going to hit very differently.
Yeah.
I actually disagree with you on that one. I think those were actually as close to the originals as they could have been and still offered a very similar experience.
Well, that's what I mean. We older players who've played the originals didn't really get much out of it. But when you're talking about somebody who's picking up Pokemon for the very first time, has never played BDSP or never played Diamond and Pearl, are picking up BDSP for the first time, that game's going to hit way different than it's going to hit you and me.
Oh, okay. I see what you mean now. After I had a bottle fall on my head.
So that's what I'm saying. Like that's why I'm thinking, that was part of the issues with the remake for PDSP. So problem with generational remakes is that if they don't bring anything new to the table, you're banking on nostalgia. But with what Game Freak has done limiting the Pokédex with the last couple of iterations of the generational remakes brings something to the table for those of us who have not been keeping up with Pokédexes, who've never played those original games, is that it allows us to catch Pokemon in a game where they might be available and they might not be in the newer games that are on the Switch. It allows us to fill that Pokédex with Pokemon Home, which filling the Pokédex gives you other Pokemon that you can't get in any other distribution, specifically Magearna.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. So I suppose they do need a reason to keep Home going so it doesn't just become like what Bank was.
Or worse.
Oh, that is also another thing that I completely forgot about. I want to see some updates to Pokemon Home. I want to see them actually develop what they promised on, because they initially, if I'm correct in saying, and I could be completely wrong, but they did mention there were going to be like mini games in Home, which could actually be really fun. Maybe you get, I forget what they called, but they were in X and Y. They were those like, was it X and Y or Sun and Moon? It was those little bean things. And
Sun and Moon, the way you're collecting the beans on the island.
Yeah, and you could send your Pokemon off there to collect the beans, and maybe those beans could then be used to give you a level 4 fire encounter buff in Scarlet and Violet or Pink and Yellow or whatever the next games are. I will say, when they were still doing enhanced versions, they missed out on a brilliant opportunity. You have Pokemon Rock, Pokemon Paper, then your enhanced versions, Pokemon Scissors.
Just wanted to add in a couple more things. Can't remember what the second one is though. But like I have been watching a lot of T-Tartube as well, and he's been talking about like this, like Ku has been talking about like there's still like one more Pokemon left to be revealed. So I can assume that, well, not assume, I can predict that maybe the Pokemon company will release like maybe another Pokemon movie that has to do with like maybe another mythical. I think that would be really cool to do. Like maybe we do have another like Pokemon on the way and it's another mythical, because that'd be sweet.
What if they announce another DLC for Scarlet Violet?
That would be okay too, I think. Maybe it's free. Hopefully it's free. Don't gotta pay for it.
So another mythical could be quite cool, and you could tie it into another DLC where, so we know Petulant like poisons and controls people or something to that effect. What if the Pokemon that hasn't been revealed is actually a Pokemon that can purify other Pokemon or people of Petulant's poison? So we get different forms of the awful three.
That would be cool. Yeah, if they don't give it to us as like a DLC, I don't mind another update too. That's fine. If it's just another update thing, I'm okay with that too. It'll be short, but hey, I'll take it. It's free, more or less.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if they're looking at free DLC.
Well, it is
but
technically locked behind the DLC, I guess, right?
Yeah, but at the same time, DLC's been doing so great, I don't think they want to sully it by dumping something half-assed if they've already been planning on dropping something that would expand on the story for Scarlet and Violet, give it a little bit more longevity to push it towards Generation 10. I think that's smart if they were to do that. Whether or not that's what they're going to do, that's a different story.
Now we just have to wait in anticipation to see if what we said was either complete rubbish or some of it could have been pretty accurate.
Little more than a week now.
With that brings our episode to a close. Let us know what you think. What are your predictions for Pokemon Day? Let us know down below. Also, be sure to share, like, subscribe. Let us know how we're doing. And as always, have a wonderful day. Bye.
Ciao.
Bye, beef.